Hello, my name is Mary Kay Worth, and this is segment 2 of a 4-step segments in the teaching of writing processes, which there are 5 steps. And what I'd like to do for you today is take you through step 2. But before we do that, let's review the 5 steps that will be covered and then get right into drafting. So the 5 steps that will be covered are brainstorming and inspiration, drafting, which will be segment 2. Segments 3 and 4 will be revising and editing, and that's actually segment 3. And then segment 4 will be the 5th step, and that will be publishing. So we covered the first step in segment 1. Let's go ahead and get started. So right away, you have to begin with your text and thinking about what kind of text am I going to write? Maybe you never thought about writing it any other way, but you do have choices. You can do narrative, you can do dialogue like a play, you can do poetry, which I do a lot of. Even some of it's not rhyming, but has anchor verses and repeating phrases. You can do a combination of them. It can be fiction or nonfiction, true or not true. Then you gather your resources. Primary resources are best. Journal writing is really a wonderful primary source. If you don't write, I would encourage you to start writing, start taking notes, and start keeping them. And talk to people that might give you a primary source as you're doing your research. Real documented experiences are what I used as my brainstorm inspiration for step 1 of writing. And for now, don't even think about the illustrations. This will come. You may already be pretty good at it and you've already doodled, and that's okay. Choose your utensil. Well, that's obvious. Pen or pencil and paper. Nope, not anymore. You've got a computer. You've got your notes on your phone. I've written many times on my phone these days, and sometimes some of the other steps get put in quickly because of autocorrect. It goes straight to editing and gives me the right spelling if I've misspelled. Once you do that, we just start writing. And I want to remind you about Sibling Saplings, the book that I want to write, that was based on growing an idea rooted in hope from my family legacy library that I did in June of 2013 when I was superintendent. And my research for that was I wanted to visit every sapling because there were 11 that came to the state. We were only one of them. I visited 4 and I sat at their base. And I talked about that just a little bit. And I have the research there. A little bit I'll read from. It's Sonoma State University. Visited the first of 10 sibling saplings, just a couple of hours from Tom's home, my son. I am surprised at how much bigger this tree has grown. Were they all the same when they arrived in Beltway, Maryland? Did it grow faster in quarantine because of the weather? Where did they confine this tree? Special that my first visit is farthest from the southern Cayuga sapling. I am blessed. So I would like to include some of that in my book. Not quite sure where it's going to be, but I wanted to refer to it. And I know I need to visit the other trees yet, and now I believe that I can, and I can get it down. I also promised that I would, and I did, call the Children's Museum in Indianapolis. That's the National Children's Museum. and to start the process to get permission to use some of their words from a published book that they had about the sapling tree too, that I liked. But I also just did what I needed to do. I needed to write. And I'm sure you've already experienced that. So what I'm going to share for you is a couple of different versions of ways to write. So the first one is a poetry version, which a lot of my poems end up being books. And some of these that I'm going to read now, some of the verses, the cadence isn't right. I would fix that in the revising. But you'll notice as we go through, and I'm going to read some of this to you. Mother was dying, bending with wind. Age and chains did not keep life in. Horse chestnut tree, smitten with blight, was seen through a window there too in the night. A symbol of hope, a season, no bear. Young Anne was certain good existed somewhere. Seeds collected before mother tree passed, sprouted, nurtured, dormant saplings would last. 11 saplings made their way to a new country, the US of A. 3 years of quarantine, watch closely and learn. Like a pandemic, delayed roots yearn. When spaces were ready, when blight was not found, saplings crossed state lines, committees abound. The place of the planting, each special in their own right, was planned and celebrated, growth evident, simple sight. The climate, the place, warm, hot, or cold, home for the sapling, growth seen and told. Some saplings grew faster, cold places were slow. One young tree was cut, like life robbed, couldn't grow. Care is not free, time does not wait. The reason, the purpose, the story, the trait. Each sibling, each brother, a message to share. Spread hope, love, and joy. Stop the nightmare. Then I decided to try it in narrative. And so now I'm going to read you the narrative format. It goes like this. I will find them all. We came together. There were 11 of us. I will find them all. I will go to them. She will help me. We are very still, very quiet, coming across the ocean from Amsterdam to Washington, D.C. We didn't even look right. We looked like sticks, and we're only about 2 feet long. They said they made us dormant for the December trip across the ocean. It was very important that we make it to U.S. soil quickly. The Department of Agriculture was going to close entry of horse chestnut trees by January 1st of 2010. All of us were required to be in quarantine for 3 years. You heard it right, 3 years. It was for our own good and for the good of other trees, especially horse chestnuts. For 6 months, I was in Beltway, Maryland with others. We were together, but separate. I was planted, woken up out of dormancy. Did that happen to the others? I think so. After all, we were important. We came from the seeds of Mother. She was famous. She stood outside in the Amsterdam courtyard. Anne Frank wrote about Mother. When Mother got old and sick, we were collected as seeds and planted to grow and live. Mother would be so proud as we took hope to the globe. 9 of my sibling saplings were headed away. I'm not even sure who was first or last. I was put in the back seat of a car next to another sibling sapling. I was not alone. Yes, for 3 years, quarantine was our life. My sibling sapling and I spent time in a Bronx greenhouse. We were watered and watched and studied. So that's as much as I've got so far. So I have a choice. Poetry or narrative? I kind of like the narrative. I think it has a lot more possibilities than the poetry does. So I'll probably use that one. What do you think? So in your head now, make sure you can say the names of the 2 steps we've covered so far. Say them in your head. Now check against this, because I'll tell you. Brainstorming and inspiration, and drafting. Those are the first 2 steps. There is an optional, and I'll emphasize again, optional prompt exercise. I would like you to write a short draft of a children's book. Just 5 minutes of it. Or share one that you may have already started. Tell someone about your draft, your idea for a children's book. Show them your draft. Know that we're going to do this again. And the next time we'll talk about revising and editing. And that will be segment 3. It's a happy day. I hope you are learning and getting excited about writing.